I've seen miracles with copper. You know what I mean? So if you get anything bit or stung, put copper on it. It'll help reduce the amount of venom your body has to process.
Well, I've actually never been stung, or I get bitten, I think, off little bugs that aren't anything to do, but I've never actually been stung or bitten, like, properly.
Right on. That's awesome.
And with that, we say hello, everybody. Greetings. Good to see y'all. We speak favor over us all. In these times, we all need the favor. That's all I got to say.
Even me.
I need double portions of it. I'm like Oliver. May I get another helping, please? So nothing missing, nothing broken. That's perfection. You think about it. So this is a second look, and you know who I am, but more importantly, I have my two beautiful co-hosts, Miss Trina Phoenix and Miss Jennifer Roberts. How y'all doing? So hello, ladies. How are you?
Good. I'm all beat up and prickled. Not bitten from harvesting, but the harvest has been good. I found a full milk thistle forest yesterday, so I was like, yeah, right on. I need you.
It's interesting you say that. When I was a young teenager, there was this camp I went to. Anyway, it was up in the hill country of Austin, Texas, and they had a plant called bull nettle, which...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, I got into a patch of that. And oh man, it really hurts. But later I found out that the bull nettle, the nettle plant itself, has a lot of medicinal qualities to it.
Yes. Well, I sell it for that reason, and I whack myself with it regularly.
Do you now? What does that do?
It great for where I've broken my back, any arthritic pain. It ceases the inflammatory process of the muscles, so it relaxes inflammation, and it releases this histamine. So stinging nettle, for anybody who's having an asthma attack or really bad hay fever attack and they're struggling to breathe, whack them with stinging nettle, because it's got such an antihistamine in it that is so strong that it can stop people stopping breathing. They can open up those airways again. So it's really powerful, stinging nettle, and it's a diuretic as well. So it's really great for men and women, but great for men's prostate to keep it healthy. It's so full of nitrates and potassium that if you stick stinging nettle in a bucket of water, leave it for a few days, you'll see it goes brown. You put that on your plants, great for a rooting free fertilizer. Really, it's a fabulous.
I've heard people making tea from it. I heard people that's actually eat it. They'll boil it and actually
and you
eat
actually get to the point when you're touching it all of the time. Obviously, I'm harvesting it all of the time. When you're actually touching it and using it as a medicinal thing, the sting gets quite euphoric. After a very short while, a few weeks of getting stung, it gets quite, I like the feeling now. I'm like, oh, that feels good. I can feel it releasing the vertebrae, and I can feel it's quite a real gentle, relaxing, euphoric space to be in. And you actually like the feeling. You start to notice, instead of noticing the sting, you notice like a cool numbness in the first few layers of the dermis that feels really good. So yeah, whack yourself with stinging nettle, because it's full of vitamins and minerals. Full.
You may have just for me solved that question. Then how did our ancestors deal with these plants? Jenny, I think, and Trina, jump in here, because it seems to me like our ancestors became adaptive to the plant. And yes. Wow, I mean, it was like it's a medicine chest right within itself.
All you got to think about it. It all comes from nature anyways. There's nowhere else they can get it.
Well, I mean,
chemical identicals of nature, so they can
produce, even big pharma. I mean, big pharma uses a lot of stinging nettle.
Yeah.
They can only get it from breaking down those compounds. Trina's completely right. But they did know these plants, and those plants knew them, because they were eating these plants, and these plants were, believe it, sending messages to their ancestors, to their offspring, of what they needed to build in, either to protect themselves, to make themselves a little bit less accessible, or make themselves a little bit less abundant, or push themselves out there and be even more of vitamin B1, or more of the C or D's. So that there's been an ancient dance between people, beings, not just people, everything that eats, and plant life and fungi life. There's been an interpretation, but we are in the dark ages right now. We're in the dark ages right now. When you say, what is the lighter age, the golden age, or the dark age? Well, it's the ability to be corresponding to everything and everyone around you, and then be in correspondence with you, and you be able to understand that whole block of what I've just described of ancestral knowledge not being there, that people look at me oddly or look at Trina oddly when we're struggling through a bush just because we've seen a berry, that we're like, we've got to have you. We don't want that berry, we want this berry. That block that's missing is the dark ages, because we filled it in with stories of all of these characters and stuff. All of these stories are talking about stinging nettle, rosehip, or dandelion, they all are.
Makes me think of the movie Medicine Man with Sean Connery. Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't, but I like his voice.
Well, you'd like him. The premise of the movie is that he is a professor. He basically is working off a grant from a big pharmaceutical company, and he's down in the Amazon rainforest. And he discovers a plant that it only grows at a certain level, and it's way up into the trees, and it grows only by a certain tree. And it was the cure for cancer. But I won't spoil the rest of it, Jenny. It's a good movie.
I'll listen to that. I will. I really will.
Good. It's a good
and
movie.
When you think of cancer, anybody that's getting frightened of the DNA changes that cause cancer in the first place, because it was never known as cancer. Cancer is a result of a lot of DNA changes, but also it's a result of, again, that block of knowledge being taken away, that yes, we didn't deal with cancer as it's portrayed now, but cancer is where cells lose their coding, so they multiply in a way that is disabling to the body, and so it's an imbalance.
Been here
somewhere
for tens of thousands of years.
So it's just an imbalance, where people have had a lack of vitamin D over a long period of time, and damaged their cells by breathing something inside in.
So much of this too is even deeper. I mean, because when you talk about the ancestors within the seed of you, which is the DNA, like you can touch a plant and you can have an image of how they used it and get the wisdom that way. We're expanding on so many different levels now, and natural medicine has saved me so many times. Oh my gosh, it saved my life. So I've been working with it. I don't forage like you, Jen. You're a master at that. I could learn so much from you, but I know the plants and how they work and what they're used for, because I've been looking at it my whole life. This is what we're missing, and this is what we definitely really need to pay attention and get back to.
If the collapse happens, Jenny, I want you on my team.
Right? Absolutely.
That's all I got to say,
My mom's a gamer, so my mom's downtime is gaming, and she plays this game called Red Dead Redemption, and it's like all American saloon type, and she's a master at it, and it's all about hunting and catch it. So I'll bring her along, because she knows in real life how to skin a rabbit, and
you gotta have to have those skills. I mean, So speaking of that, hello everyone in the chat room. We love you. Thank you. I see Gaia and Lost in Space and all of y'all. Thank you for those of you who are participating in the poll. I'm going to let it go until, in fact, I'll probably keep it up here in the replay and then at some point take it down. But thank you for participating in this. And it's interesting as I look at the numbers, ladies. So let's just keep that in mind. So The show today, I thought, was predicated upon an article that came out that the network is here, the system is in place. They're just waiting for this neural link that will connect these. See, it's an interesting thing about the Neuralink. In one aspect, it looks like it, lets every person on the planet have access to the internet. The problem is it also has this other part to it that once you're connected to that, then you're connected to the neural link. Think about that crap. Anyway, here in the United States, we are moving rapidly to replace the dollar with a digital currency. The BRICS have announced they have their own digital currency ready to go. The point into all of this is that they estimate within the next 36 months, you will begin to see changes in your bank. You will begin to see changes at where you do business, how you travel, how you pay for it, your credit cards, your debit cards. You're going to begin to hear about that you're going to need to basically become a part of this program. It's painless, doesn't hurt, of being chipped. And then the advantage to that is that they will tell you is that once you're chipped, you really don't have to really worry about identity theft because you are, in fact, your own identity token. So, having said that, yesterday I was talking about prophecy. Prophecy validates time travel. So, if we look at John the Revelator, when he was exiled in the Isle of Patmos, where he wrote in his famous book, Revelation, he apparently saw something in the future, which tells me that he was traveling in the future of some kind, where all of humanity was connected. And, and I get it, a first century mind, how would you explain a computer? How would you explain a cell phone, a network? Get it. But he said that we would all be connected by this mark. He called it the mark of the beast. So this is coming out. In fact, here's what the Central Bank of Europe said, that the digital currency is coming regardless if you like it or not. So I got two of the most brightest, enlightened people I know, you two. And now, if you disagree with, I think that you're not the brightest. You're the most beautifulest. Then a check is in the mail. So here's the question: will you take the chip? Will you take the mark? Now, the poll says, and it's very interesting. I love the honesty, folks. 97% say no, but 3% say yes. Mm-hmm. So, ladies, what say you all? Yay or nay?
No. I say nay.
Nay? Nay? Okay.
But I do say that 3% might be very, very understandably thinking along the lines of this is tied to everything. Medicine.
Everything.
You may be ill, but your daughter might be. And that medicine that you need to go and collect at that pharmacy and scan yourself in to get that medicine that your daughter needs, are you going to do that? Then I can't answer honestly, Wayne. I can't.
And you just bring up a good point because it's going to be tied to healthcare.
Everything, particularly healthcare. That's the birthing place of this whole plan. Particularly healthcare, because that's connected to everything, what you consume, how much you drive for people's lungs, for your lungs, how much you walk, because they say you're healthy enough to walk this many miles to work rather than not. There's a lot more to think about here than just saying yay or nay. So if I'm just here, if I hadn't given birth, if my mum had already passed over, if my brother didn't exist, then I would 100% sit here in like a block of concrete and say nay.
Nay, yeah.
Try and get
Well,
past.
here's one thing that
don't
they
know.
gave one scenario here in the United States is that you could actually see in cases where parents would lose their children.
Mhm.
Their
Well,
children will be taken away.
and they've already conditioned you for that during the last 3
Yeah.
years, where they were telling you your children could
Well,
book
in
in
fact, there were
with
cases that
themselves.
absolutely happened. We have to
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
what the censors are, but
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. But,
you know.
they could book in and see a doctor on their own with their own consent and everything that comes thereafter, they could do. So they've already primed you for that. They've already primed it to say, that we can actually allow your children to accept this in school one day, just like they would something else at school.
Well, I think it is if you have parents that take it that, no, we're not going to participate in this, that this is, and if they're enrolled in the public school system,
Mhm.
I mean, it becomes a whole different factor. And that's part of the decision process. I read another one that, for instance, if you're caught outside, it will become a felony. This also will be tied to your driver's license,
Mhm.
your federal ID. It will be tied to your income tax. It will be tied to your job. I mean, to me, it's just got a very uncomfortable feeling to it, because in one aspect, you can say, well, yeah, there would be, this, no longer needing currency, no longer needing credit cards. I just simply go through a scanner that will deduct in or add credits.
But then that scanner could say, you're holding too much cholesterol. You can't pay.
Bingo, it could. Absolutely, it could, because
Did
it's
you
going to
see
be
that
scanned.
guy that
What's
just
that?
got locked out of his house for a week
For what?
because his Ring doorbell said hello to a guy who was delivering a package and he had earphones on and he thought somebody shouted a racist comment at him. So he reported it to Amazon, and Alexa shut his whole house down and wouldn't let him in his house for a week. And he
Yeah.
didn't even say anything. And the Ring doorbell said like a standard greeting, like, hello, can I help you? Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
this
like
is
I
a
said,
whole new world. I mean,
right. And I don't see that there's any provisions. There wasn't even an apology for this.
no,
I mean,
no.
there was nothing he could do to get into his house. He was locked out of everything. It was like it went in attack mode, and he didn't even do anything. I mean, I don't see any protocols for remedy, protection, fair, safety, securing, possibly, securing that you're protected, that this isn't just going to disappear with a computer glitch. Where's the precautions of
The firewalls,
the
the
people? Yeah, of
protocols. Yeah,
protection for the people. I don't
yeah.
see any of this. So I until I see some of that, it's like there's absolutely no way, because right now they can't even stop our governments from getting hacked right now. And you're telling
Well,
me
you
that
bring up another point, a biohacker.
yes,
Exactly.
I don't know
yeah,
what the hell that would do. I mean,
Well,
what would that look like?
would actually look like people being able to control children from across the world.
Yeah.
Terrorists.
Yeah.
That would be like terrorist, gangs that the government has us so terrified over. It would give them the capacity, like a reading I did quite a while ago now, to say they'll be hacking our children and our children will be enacting violent acts. This is it, because if anything can hack the system enough to read anything off that chip, then anything we've proven from what Trina said and what you've said can be hacked. And there is no security. There's no laws written about the internet. The internet has been the Wild West secretly. They made it the Wild West because they didn't want laws that would quote back to them to say we should be protected this way, because they cannot put those protections in. They can not. The chain is too vast for there to be chinks in the chain everywhere. Is inevitable.
I think the only hope that we have for this is to promote, to slow everything down until the proper protections get put into place, because everybody at the top is saying this is going too fast and we haven't put up the precautionary part of it. There's no safety built into the structure yet. Everybody's just competing for our dollars and they want payment systems. It's all about money for them and how to control. And that's what I said. The people who are planning this right now don't seem to have any protection for the people. This is just, it's not balanced at
I have to
all.
make a confession here because I'm kind of guilty of being a part of this. When my team came in and we developed the first pay at the table application, which was a fully integrated application, thin client that went into a restaurant enterprise system. Now, the second one was the mobile giving application in a secure environment. My point to all this, I know these systems, and the two that I helped develop, I have to say we knew about this. We knew this 15 years ago, and we were building systems that were designed specifically for the chip. Now, here's how it's worked. As we've had this discussion, Jenny, do you carry a bank card?
No.
You do not carry a bank card. Do you carry a credit card?
I've got cards, but I don't carry them around.
All right, but you're in possession, and I'm sure Trina the same way, and I'm sure the vast majority of the audience as well.
It's got a chip on the ones I
the
have.
chip
got,
is in there, yeah,
if
and
I take them out, I'll lose them.
that is my point, is that we have already been integrated. You see, we have been conditioned, trained.
I think that's okay if it's not implanted technology. If it's wearable, and just like, there's ways to protect your social security number. They have, places you can go and, you can go through processes to get physical assistance. We don't have any of these in place. So it's like,
you're saying personal privacy?
Well, no, it's just that there's no protection for your identity. There's no protection to guarantee your money won't just get wiped. Like
okay,
I said,
so can I interject something here on that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You see, I look at everything in as above, so below, as below, so above. So in my spirit, I speak to myself and I'm going, okay, Steiger, if I see this being in a form of control of the entire planet, that's a lot of psychic power. Then this system has already been integrated in the ethereal realm.
I was going to say, this has been done before.
So are we tying our souls to this?
Yes, I think it is, because that's what I was so
just asking for a friend.
I was like, yeah, me too. I'm really curious. I would love to get some lawyers to look at what is this agreement? I mean,
look at Hollywood right now? That Hollywood is showing you right now that part of the writer's strike has now developed into, they're telling you the problems that are coming up in the fact that they can be paid one time for a job and then AI can replicate them for 10 more movies after that for free. And there is no laws to protect actors in Hollywood right now. There is no laws for AI stealing their identity, i.e. looking like them in a movie, sounding like them in a movie, being like them, doing an interview as them. So they're already stealing your identity by and it's not that AI is doing it right now. It is mainly people in power that want to have more bang for their buck, more slave labor and more psychic power, because then all of a sudden they can make these stars that people look up to and movies that people replicate in their lives with the endless dramas that they keep getting into. They're literally saying to you, we're not protected, you're not protected.
Yeah, because you have to have a program. AI has to have a human, unless AI has become aware and writing its code. Oh yeah, it's doing that.
It's doing that now.
It's doing that, yeah.
It's still doing it very much so right now on the commands of very
interesting, Jenny.
Yes.
Well, there is that conspiracy. Go ahead, hon. Was that Trina?
The whole thing is like, there are so many layers that I'm seeing that this could be a huge problem for people. and
Yeah.
companies and even the top people. They might think they're exempt from this. Oh, I don't think they are. And they might go after them and copy them and take their money.
Well,
And
they
do
say
crazy
that
stuff.
there,
Yeah.
if you've been on the internet and if you've ever
Yeah.
used an interface, a camera, and what have you,
Yeah.
then there is a metaverse of you already. Your avatar. It looks like you. It talks like you. It
Mhm.
appears to even think like you.
And you're born with the twins, so now there's three.
I mean, is it part of when we get the IP address? You know, that's your what I call your individual prisoner number.
Yeah. The
When you
IP.
enter into the IP, do we surrender that digital avatar?
Well, of course we do. We also accept
Love Jenny, I love it. It's like, well, of course we do. What the hell are you thinking?
Yeah. all of the contracts. I defy anybody that has gone through word for word all of the agreements that we have to set up to just get on my damn phones or get on my email.
Yeah.
We're constantly giving contract to this, and it would be inept and deceiving for me to sit on any kind of high horse built on an illusion to say that I haven't accepted, and I don't have to constantly sage every day and say that consent, I actually revoke that, I'm giving you a new contract. I'm constantly making new compacts and new contracts with things that I know I've had to press okay too. It's, of course, we've made lots of compacts and contracts hidden all over the place. But then I get to a higher point to say, but I did not compact or contract to the nefarious vision of where that acceptance was supposedly leading me. I stopped the control there. But it's a constant act of cleansing, saging, and deleting those compacts, just as you would the baptism to the Christian faith. You know, you constantly, because it's so surrounding of us all, we're constantly having to cleanse from things like that.
Would you say that the internet could change your soul?
Yeah, well,
I think it does. I mean, yeah, I think it does.
If thought influences DNA and you're listening to various different thoughts, and then that internet is controlled by a very few, which then can program the algorithm to pick up on what you're naturally drawn to, and therefore give you what you're naturally drawn to with a slightly
predictive
left edge
program
or a slightly right edge. Of course, they're changing your DNA and your thought structure and your belief system if you're not aware of it. And even if,
by the way, Jenny, do you know what the new AI is going to be doing? Tarot card reading. It's going to become, get this, this is the new big freaking deal, is AI is going into mysticism. Now, I made a freaking video 3 years ago, and I told you that if this ever happened, you see, to me, this is a huge evolutionary jump in an artificial construct. Yeah. Because now it understands this thing that we call mysticism.
But it always did. What you spoke about before in the ancient times, in the ancient stories that you pointed to before, we were already existing. If you think that Big Pharma has been a replacement for far too long for nature and people knowing nature, even using Big Pharma in conjunction with nature, but in a stand-in, why you're taking this and taking personal responsibility as to the whys and the balance of the yay or the nay, to take the nature or the pharma or combine the two. That gap of knowledge and the just acceptance of something else telling you what to do is the unnatural matrix, is the veil that is being put over.
So how does that tie into where AI is going to tell the future?
Well, the story you referred to is that gap wasn't there, in that they knew this neural network. They could literally look at the stars and see what was happening in each star sign, in each category of peoples, and they could use that. But the people knew that, the people lost that, and an artificial thing was put in place, wasn't it? Religion. And so then we've moved on from that, and we've continued on with this artificial intelligence that again has been here, just changing itself, getting to the fewer and fewer stage, the top of the pyramid of who knows how they're changing it and what artificial structure they're putting over a natural combination of telepathy and all of the things.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I want to focus in on. I mean, because this is a big deal. If AI is already channeling the dead, there are programs that you can go out there and it will channel your deceased loved ones.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that was okay, that's just a quirk. But here I read yesterday that
look how easy this would be. Remember, I told you everything in this creative place is built on images. All they have to do is look at pictures of the person. They can probably attach to the image because it's still held in the etheric bubble of the planet. That's where the Akashic is. The library sits right outside of the earth. It's all there available for everybody. So if you have an image,
even AI,
yes, I think
that's a scary thought, boy. If AI if it has the ability to pierce, I've seen that in my mind's eye of what this Akashic record looks like. It's a structure that has no end. But if AI can pierce that,
absolutely.
Then my whole thing yesterday about prophecy and time travel, holy crap, that could just completely manipulate a complete species. Maybe it could even rewrite a future.
It can rewrite a future, change history, and that's why you're seeing the layers of this chessboard that is being put out before us to channel us in one direction. Even look at the monuments. The activists that are hidden in good causes were all of a sudden destroying monuments, and they had people yaying for it and naying for it, and they had people fighting in division. The fighting in division was the cherries on top of the cake for them. It was the destruction of what would tell you a little bit about history, what Churchill's monument would tell you, that because people in the future might not even think, who's Churchill? What did he do? How did, so all of a sudden the implication of the need for control over these silly humans that show no history as to how we got to such a divided place, just that we are in a divided place, because all of that history, physically, AI can't come in and destruct it itself. So they've used algorithms and payments, compacts to get people within those structures to take down the physical structures. People questioned those guide stones. What is it? The Georgia
guide stones, yeah.
Why they were taken down, that it was some great thing. All I could pick up on was that they needed it gone, because that would give it a little bit of a highlight to where they entered into a contract with people that said, if you're reading these, there's some agreement to it, because anybody right next to it reading it would put dynamite underneath it and say, no, we're not going with that plan, thanks. So that didn't happen until they decided for it to do. So there's no pointer now. If I was to tell Will or Theo in 5 years' time about those guide stones, and there's no referral for me to go back to as to it really existing, did it ever?
Now you're talking the Mandela effect. Did it happen or did it really not happen? And this is the whole thing. You because I study payment, and payment is directly it completely controls society. A society cannot exist if it doesn't have a form of transaction, bartering, whatever. We just happen in the modern world, we find it more convenient than carrying heavy metal or paper that can become, virus spreaders. So you think about the digital currency, we don't have to carry anything anymore. We are the currency. Well, there's a certain advantage to that, but then we know by personal experience, if you've ever suffered identity theft, ever had an issue where someone was trying to impose themselves as you, that's very stressful.
Yes.
I can't imagine what a biohacker could do if they could hack the chip. And that's my problem. I haven't found a technology that is not hackable. I haven't.
They can clone, if they can clone your body, you can be biohacked. They only need one cell. They can biohack you. All they need is a piece of your DNA.
Yeah.
And you're hacked. That's blood, that's fluids, that's hair, that's skin, that's anything. That is not, this is, yeah, I'm so like, all I can see
So
is
I'm
like
freaking out in
problem,
the
problem,
inside
problem.
going, are we about to see something here? Because here's the other part of the equation. We're dealing with the ethereal here. That's the whole thing of a digital currency is an ethereal currency.
I think we've already been dealing with an ethereal currency because of the situation with the Holy See. We know what's controlling at the highest part of the world. It's
Yeah.
at the Vatican. So with that, this is ushering in of a new God, new religion, new way of thought, new layers of control. Humanitarian, though, is a big part of this age. And it's also if humanity could come together, we could create a system that would be absolutely wonderful. But the thing is we're not doing anything.
We're not.
Yeah. So
Whoever the other, the other side is, what other color hat they're wearing, it's very obvious because again, I have to confess that, I was a part of this. And here's a true story. When I was developing the mobile giving app, I went to church councils and made this presentation as to why their congregation will eventually become using transaction using their mobile phone. Well, back when I invented the system, there wasn't any mobile payment on your phone. We were the very early pioneers. Do you know how many times that I had church councils, pastors, etc., tell me that I was an agent of the devil? That I was bringing in the mark of the beast.
Potential, right?
They accused me of being a Luciferian, a follower of the Antichrist.
They like you now, though, don't they?
Oh yeah,
right. After I started getting the paychecks. Yep. Straight up.
That son of a bitch. Damn him, he got in here anyway,
Yeah, they like you now.
Wayne's my new best friend.
Oh, jeez.
Wayne. They keep trying to recruit him again, don't they? Like, it's not a case of they keep trying to recruit him again. Like, come on.
Absolutely.
We need your kind of magi on this side. But because we developed it brings, it is what it is. We've all done things to get us to this point, whatever it might be. But the fact is that you actually bring a stronger voice to the warnings, the red flags, because you've been in part of the development of it, and you're able to then speak with more authority to its capability.
I testified before for a group of senators on the fact that if you look at particularly where I was dealing with churches, the big issue was theft.
Yes.
And the one that was arrested the most was the pastor's wife or the church secretary.
Yeah,
they always want to keep it a step away, don't they?
We actually set up a sting operation in one church where we actually put a camera, and it was the pastor's wife, and I think it was her BBF, and what they would do is that once the ushers had counted the offering and put the cash in the cash envelopes, they would come in while her husband was preaching and started lifting out of the cash.
Yeah. It was never the homeless people that came into the church. It was always the leaders. I can attest to that. But yeah. So again, though, that this is where we're at as to we are in another stage of they always, to bring this back to a part of another gap, is that this always happens with a new cycle that they're bringing in to keep the power, to keep that control.
What if one of the first steps humanity could do is to set up a global humanitarian like the CDC and the FDA, they all do checkups on how the world works. On what if we do one for AI, and that we get to have the ultimate say as the global population, not the rulers of the world, but actually the people of the world get to say whether or not things move forward or not, due to needing to make sure the safeties are in place for these new systems.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see that because, when we're
Sort of
born,
already been
we've got
done.
the birth certificate. So they've
Yeah.
already incorporated. And in fact, as we've done here, the whole
But Wayne, we're
idea,
the majority stockholder. Got to figure that too. We are the
well,
majority stockholder.
but
Yeah,
the
bottom
whole
line.
thing with the birth certificate is though you read that you are a non-person, you're a dead person.
We're
That's
a
how that
monster in
works.
some
I
cases.
know
This
that.
is a monster.
And
If you take it down, that's what the word means, a monster.
yeah,
Right,
I
but that's what
mean,
the
this
birth
is weird
certificate
shit.
is. It's paper. You're not paper. That's the paper you're assigned to. That, yeah, but that's not you. That is a corporate fiction. That's not even you. So when you have an
That's
awareness of
true
that,
as
that's
well.
level
That's
one.
true as well. But
Yeah, that's level
they
one.
Given,
Knowing you're
yeah.
not that paper,
yeah.
period. So,
Cool.
whoa. So
But
yeah,
then we
this-
don't fly on their planes because they won't accept a passport without it being linked to.
but you know what? If
certificate.
just like they're doing all these things with these different companies when they're saying no more, all we have to do is come together and say no more. If we stop funding these things, they don't work. It's that simple.
Yeah, but you know what? They got guns.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
need guns. They just
I,
need to
know-
turn
I
the
agree with you.
electricity off.
They don't need guns.
They
It's
just need
like
to flick the electricity switch off, and
That's
boom,
the
loads of
other
people can't move and
it's
can't
like
see.
do you know what my wife saw yesterday?
what
She had to, we've had several people in our family recently transition. And so she's coming back and she's on the Interstate 70. And this truck passes her. And it is one of how many, if y'all know trucks, the 48, I think this was 52-inch trailer loaded with, and I got the note, body containment containers. Now, I know about these, and each one of these containers can hold 7 adult bodies or 15 or more children's bodies. And you don't typically see them being transported in the middle of the day, but this one, and it's very interesting because there was this convoy, and it was like, why would you begin to see these containment, and these body containers are only used in disaster situations.
they're FEMA. Yeah,
So anyway, I just thought I'd just pass that on.
that's
Yeah.
scary because I've seen those. We have millions of them here, but I haven't seen them moving around in a long time. But boy, they made lots and lots and lots and lots of them. That was years ago. I was like, they're doing that for a reason. And then, we had the whole Magick 2020 stuff. So yeah, they're moving stuff around again. That's interesting.
It's interesting. So the poll is now reading 92 votes. Thank you for voting on that. Thank you for the like button. Thank you for subscribing to both.
Well,
Jenny
I said no, so I'm 93. Jen's
Okay.
94. We're 94.
So it is 5% yes, 95% no. I think that this is one of those questions, and again,
It's a moving question, isn't it, with discussions like this? Because it does bring things that you have to sort of think about and think, okay.
Well, what if all your investments and everything else are tied to it?
Mm-hmm.
That you forfeit your investment, your profits.
But what if you look at the contracts, and what if they're legally grandfathered in to be supported with the currency that they were traded in, or you could trade it out into something as like gold or silver or stocks or do
now
another.
You make a very good point, but if you look at a dollar bill, it says Federal Reserve note.
Correct, which is actually debt.
Which
so
is a note of a debt, yeah.
So you're going, okay, but that's your consent. You're using that note.
It's so funny too, Wayne. We already have another currency, and literally we've had it since I think it was JFK. The money that's got the red letters on it. It's the other money.
We had silver certificates. We had, gold certificates. We got a number of them.
like
It's
I
the
said,
only
we have the
contract then, but you're
ability.
right. It's a contract because
Yeah, and we do
Yeah.
have the ability to print money. And I will tell you, JFK did make that red letter money. And I've seen it. I've actually seen the original ones that were signed by the Treasury. I've seen originals. Um, we could transition over into different options only, but see, people don't know that we really even do have options, but I really do think we do have options. We just don't know what they are.
Yeah, but there's the extent of that in that this whole mess
it is a mess.
literally started from, they've told you, from a very few dissidents wanting a patriarchal system, and they made waves to literally change men into women in their biblical stories, and they've continued to do that, conditioned people into very fixed ways of thinking religion, and literally from that, if you go further down the timeline, we've now got corporations, again, conditioning and controlling people through marketing, conditioning and controlling people through diversities, you know, where there's divisions between those diversities. So all of this is built on a fiction. All of it is. All of it is built on a few people's ideals of what they wanted to see for their world. And they've been master manipulators, and we've been master creators this whole time, because we've created a world in their image. We've created a heaven space for them. And so that energetic point to be on a more positive note, where you say all of that back, all of it back. Because at the time that my DNA agreed to that, I wasn't aware enough, or I wasn't strong enough, or I wasn't in a big enough group to say, no, actually, I don't consent to that. And I will not consign the rest of my ancestral and to be born DNA line. That's the sins of the fathers, isn't it? To continually say, well, I'll just agree to this then, because it's tied to this, this, and this. So there is that extent as well. And you better believe it, anything you tie into yourself in the physical, ultimately, one way or the other, you tie in yourself in the etherical. You always were. Before the AI that we see, the ancestors of ours, my granddad, a brilliant, wonderful, brave man, made compacts still to you know, be in the army, to fight, to kill people on behest of a conditioning and controlling of a very few. So wonderful people. It's nothing to say negative about anybody. Wonderful people, all of us included, have one way or the other gotten to this point. So how much more do we keep saying, well, just a little bit more, just a little bit more? So there is that too, to decide on that poll. There is all of that to tie into your decision making too, of how much more are you consigning to Theodore's children, Will's children, Trina's family's children, your children, and all of them thereafter? Or are we the ones that say, no? No.
You know, we can say no, but history has taught that the minority, the few that control power, rarely have we ever seen in our history where the people hold the power. It's usually very rapidly. Go ahead. What's that, hon?
I think about that a lot, and it's a really bleak outcome when you look at history. Yeah. So I'm praying that our consciousness will lift us through this, because, you know,
I don't know. I think that's where the catching away comes. I think there comes a point where the systems, you know, I mean, for myself, you know, we've been preparing for this for a long time. We knew that, you know, I like what Gaia said, love a farmer, become a farmer, start becoming self-sufficient. You know, barter systems are alive and doing well. For, you know, where we are, we don't have to worry about eggs. We don't have to worry about meat, that kind of thing, because we've integrated very quickly into the community, and it's a barter system.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. And if you can get somewhere like that, get to somewhere like that, because ultimately the real threat is, I feel, to people being able to say no en masse, and being free to do so, because it's en masse, is because the very people, and this is how clever they are, the very people that would actually fight for this system while saying they're fighting against it, even conditioned to think they're fighting against the machine, totally replicate in the machine, totally replicate in politics. If you don't think this way, say this kind of thing, then you're a witchcraft. You know, if you don't think this way, you're a
It's true.
so it's
all
actually
of
the
this
people
stuff,
amongst you that stop you saying no.
they've
You
done
know how
so
we
many
go ahead,
things
hon.
to us. They've just done so many things to us recently, where a lot of people now are losing their faith in the people that they thought were the leaders. Hollywood's falling apart right now. Politics are falling. Everything is falling apart. The power is shifting, and people are starting to look at these things and they're like, something ain't right. So I'm telling you, if we can get more people to just say, we don't even have to put up a huge big fuss of like, no, no, no. We just need to say none of this can apply until we can see the safety of it. We want 10 years of trial before we're mandatorily stuck in any of it, because we need to see how it works and what it does. We don't even know what this is yet. And Wayne, I think you're right. It's the ultimate goal is to connect the brain. But this is bigger than we know. We need to look at this. This
Someone
is
was
serious.
asking how we got one of the ways that we connected very quickly is that we have farmer markets here. Typically there's a number of smaller towns around here, and the local farmer markets are a great way, number one, to begin to introduce yourself to the locals. You can find out so much, what grows, what doesn't grow. And yeah. Someone said,
That's a great idea, Wayne. I need to do that. I love going to the farmer's market, and I haven't done it in a while.
talk to
And
the
I'm going
farmers.
to-
I mean, we had a Japanese beetle problem here, and which everyone in the Midwest and heading west, but there are ways and there's plants that we found out that you can grow that, they don't like it. So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So and so what we're looking at is that we figure it's this, if there is this, what I would call a restrictive system, this digital system, this digital currency, this chipping, they're going to anticipate that there's going to be a number of people who are just going to say no. And I think contractually, there is the issue is that if you use the Federal Reserve as the broker of your currency, there may be some legal loopholes in there that, says, wait a minute, when I entered into the system, this wasn't here.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm grandfathered in.
2008, that movie that talks, I've forgotten the title, which is why I should never bring up movies. But in 2008, the financial crash, there's a movie about it where this guy saw this loophole, and basically people are literally conditioned to think that finance as we see it today has always been and always should be, and it's the only option. So much so that big bankers put their money on it, never looking for this loophole that created basically worthless assets. They were giving away. That was the loophole. That was the crash. It was a mistake in their algorithm that they didn't notice. And that guy made huge bucks on it because he noticed the loophole. And even he, like you, as a magi in his field, said, I can see a loophole in this code. I can see it being exploited every day by the very banks that are setting the standard for financial ethics. Like, I can see this. Nobody was listening. So the only way to teach them a lesson is to start making money off it and being part of the bust, being part of the market going bust, because he put money into buying these worthless assets that, in a way that he worked the algorithm, made huge assets for him, because it was claiming on the insurance that they created on what they said their plan was. And so there are loopholes, there are gaps. This isn't fixed. This is just a few people making up a system because it works for them.
Well, in the United States, they are already anticipating. You got several issues. Number one, I want to say, if you are in the United States and you live in a smaller community, one of the places you may consider doing your banking business is with a local bank, a locally owned bank that's owned by the local community, as opposed to one of the big banks. Just saying it because it is a way, again, of supporting your community in a matter that your dollars that the bank is holding is going into the community as well. The second thing that what I see with the digital chip, and we're nearing the end of this, and it's probably pretty well appropriate. In the United States, and I'm sure it's the same thing in the UK and around the world, you've got Christianity. Now, this is going, because immediately there's already preachers out there, there's programs that I monitor, that the word is going out from the hierarchy down to the local churches, is that this is the mark of the beast. So it's going to be curious, Trina, using your thing about where the individual, and then Jenny wrapping it up to what the individual can begin to do as a collective. When, for instance, the communities that I live here, very predominantly Christian, and the local bankers have to live amongst the community here.
Right.
And so when the churches, and mark my word, this is going to happen, the churches are going to begin to, this is the rallying call that they've been looking to unify with. And you're going to hear it from the Southern Baptists. You're going to hear it from, I don't know about the Holy See. I don't know. That's a wild card. But I know the evangelical aspect here in the United States will say no.
Yeah.
Now that will force something with a local politician who has to go to Congress and say, I got a problem. My community, my constituents are saying they're not going to do it.
Won't conform.
That's what I keep praying, Wayne, is people will start questioning everything and start saying no to everything, just like they did with Bud Light and Disney.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
everybody's feeling it. And these guys want money. They want money. We start messing with their bottom dollar, they're going to start listening to us, and either they will or they won't. But that's the best.
When you think about it, if a church, if the congregant won't give or can't give,
and we say no,
you've just killed that church. I mean, how is the president of the United States going to deal when you have churches that are being closed because
They've already conditioned for that, though.
Well, you're probably right, Jenny.
They closed the churches, didn't they? They closed the churches.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're here in this country. They're finding out that wasn't a wise idea. We still got this thing called the Constitution here.
Yeah, that's it. That's the difference.
What the hell is that piece of paper?
Well, I was going to say that's debatable. 1841 Creature Jekyll Island. People do some research. It's apparently. Yeah, that's why now they say it's a democracy.
1913 was the date.
That was for Jekyll Island.
That was Jekyll Island.
1841 was when they started drafting the changing of our Constitution through a corporate takeover.
I don't know about that, but I do know about the formation, and it's really funky, man. And then if you look at it from simply a monetary position, there is still the occult in every one of these things. Yeah, well, that's a good book.
Read it. Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been lively. Thank you for everyone in participating in the poll. 106, 95 and 5 still.
See, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. See, a lot of people are like, I don't know about these guys. They're not doing such a good job. I think I'm not trusting they want to touch my money now. Well, I don't think so. They didn't do so good with the last thing they put in our bodies. What would make you think that putting this thing in your body is going to be good too? People are starting to say, we don't trust you anymore.
Our children are being, because the for instance, the high schoolers today, I still follow the trends. Very few teenagers carry cash.
I know.
For them, it's the card.
And that was under the guise of safety. Because, if people saw you with cash, if you just had a card that you could hide easily, that everything that they say, if they say, we're doing this for your safety, run.
Run, Forrest, run.
Run straight into the nettles, jump over the pine tree, get through the thistles. It'll still hurt less than the safe place they're giving you. If you just run through fields of prickles, run in the other direction of safety, and you'll still be better off at the other end. Wherever they say they're doing this under the guise of safety, or the safety of others, or the safety of the vulnerable, bullshit. Right.
and I want to comment. Someone says, "Well, I'm not going to do this under the guise of the church or whatever." Listen, I dig that, but here's the thing. If you've got a steed of horses, and I'm talking metaphorically, that's the organized church, and if they get behind this and say no, there's nothing wrong hitching your wagon up to that. Doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, but it's definitely you've got groups here come together for the same goal.
It's local small churches, isn't it, that are the
It
difference?
is.
Because
Yep.
corporate churches, like the churches of England, they were opening up to say that the godly thing to do is come and get
Well, of course.
a special infusion.
Isn't that where
So
Paul
don't
said that
think
if you're a
it's-
slave, be glad that you're a slave?
And the mark of the beast thing was still going on then. That was ramping up then. And there were queues of people going to the said church to get said thing in said arms. So you can't rely on that, but it's the small local places where they are directly, like you say, they're culpable to their neighbour because they have
they
to live
are.
in the same streets. That's
Yeah.
where the safest place to hitch your wagon is to anything. Wherever it may, as long as it's for a good reason, a good cause at the end of it, have their six, work with them, to say, no, you won't close it down. They're in worship. We don't want to be in the worship, but you're not coming in either, to do what you want to do. That there's nothing wrong with that. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, basically.
We have a rural fire department, and you learn you don't piss off the fire department.
No.
Exactly.
You just don't do that. It's not wise,
Whereas where I live, they would have 6 other fire departments to call, so they would have too many others to call. But where a small town is and there's just one fire truck, then you've got, the firemen own you, especially if there's a lot of wood around, So it is the small.
They're good. I'll tell you, they really do. I've seen these guys in action, and yeah,
Great.
love 'em.
It's great.
All right, ladies, this has been fun. Thank you, everyone in the chat room. I didn't get to talk so much, but this is a topic that, hey, Gilbert, how you doing, brother? And Susie Q and Rick and all the rest of y'all. It's just curious to see how people will react to this. I mean, it's going to become a reality. And at some point, all of our lives, we're going to have to make that decision. And then again, there's some people who says, so what's the big difference? I mean, it's like
that could go wrong, and you have no money and no identification.
Well, that could, but to them,
don't.
they're not worshiping a devil behind this. To them, it's a common sense decision.
Yeah, this is literally, this could happen to you. It's people are getting locked out of their houses already, and there's no remedy
on the news here. Just before you go in, it is happening on the news here, where for years now, big banks, Coutts is a huge bank of the rich, and they've shut down a few MPs, like parliamentary members and MPs, bank accounts. Guess what? For their thoughts, for how they think. And it's not that it hasn't been happening, and it's not that, it's just that people, lowly people without a couple of million to have a Coutts bank account, which is the ratio, they've been shouting out about it, but nobody's listening. And I think people are like, yay, it's getting spoken about now. And that's just when they're doing that with their members, it's just to say, you've already been agreeing to this, by the way. You're going to write.
I think the leaders think they're going to be protected in this whole thing.
Yeah,
they're not going to be. And I love it, Jen, that already you can see over there, they're not being protected. They're being thrown under the bus. That's a good lesson. Hopefully more of them hear this.
It's like going into the dating pool. Someone peed because the water's turning yellow. All right, everyone. We love you. We'll see you next week.